tonight, vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds. Primary school children will be offered COVID jags in Scotland in an effort to cut case numbers in schools.
Yeah, I'd be up for my guys to have it. Yeah, definitely. Any kind of vaccine that's going to help.
I'm not comfortable with it. Reason being, I would rather the kid builds his immune system naturally.
Also making the headlines, Storm Dudley whips through Scotland. The amber weather warnings disrupting travel, cancelling ferries and trains.
I'll be with you later on from Machrihanish, where we've had some of the strongest gusts today from Storm Dudley, and it's not over yet, and we've got another storm on the way on Friday. But I'll have more details later on.
In sport, bring on Dortmund. The Rangers manager is relishing facing the German giants.
And a life-saving story on a number 57 bus as the driver performs CPR on a passenger suffering a cardiac arrest. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Children aged between 5 and 11 are the latest age group to be offered the COVID vaccine in Scotland. Ministers are following the recommendation of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation.
Discussions are now taking place with health boards over how the vaccine will be delivered. Louise Hawsey reports.
Teenagers can already get the COVID vaccine in Scotland. Today that was rolled out further with confirmation that 5 to 11-year-olds will now be offered the jab.
Yeah, I'd be up for my guys to have it. Yeah, definitely. Any kind of vaccine that's going to help.
They're so little, so I think it needs to be researched and before little ones.
Oh, more vaccines the better. If it can get them to not get ill and make other people get less ill, then good.
I agree.
I would rather the kid builds his immune system naturally.
The Scottish Government said the decision had been made following advice from the Joint Committee for Vaccination and Immunisation, which is now recommending the vaccine for the younger age group.
So the advice has been that these children are offered 2 doses of the paediatric, smaller dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and that those should be at least 12 weeks apart. At the moment, they're looking at this as a pandemic response. They're not saying that necessarily this group will continue to be vaccinated in the future. They're saying that at this moment in time, the benefits are likely to outweigh the risks.
Yesterday, the Welsh Government said it would be accepting the JCVI's recommendations. This evening, England and Northern Ireland say they will also offer 5 to 11-year-olds the vaccine. The Scottish Government says further information will be released once its approach to vaccination of children in this age group is finalised. Louise Hosey, STV News.
OK, let's get more from our political editor, Colin Mackay. And Colin, some more developments on this evening.
Just in the last hour, Northern Ireland and England have joined Wales and Scotland, so that now means that 5 to 11-year-olds right across the UK will be eligible for a COVID vaccination. What they will be eligible for is probably 2 doses over 12 weeks. There'll be reduced doses of the Pfizer jag, but young people are less at risk from serious illness from COVID generally, so the JCVI say there's no rush to get them vaccinated. In fact, the worst of the Omicron variant has already passed, so that's already ripped through schools in January. So this is more about looking ahead to the future. Now, the Scottish Cabinet will meet tomorrow to decide the next plans for Scotland. The First Minister will make a statement here in the Scottish Parliament next week, setting out a new strategic framework for learning to live with COVID.
All right, Colin, thanks very much.
Parts of Scotland are once again on weather watch tonight as Storm Dudley sweeps through, bringing heavy rain and winds of up to 90 miles per hour. There's an amber weather warning for the Met Office until midnight.
The majority of train and ferry services are cancelled this evening, with travel operators and power companies braced for the 4th storm in 3 months. Well, our chief reporter Sharon Frew has the latest.
The West Coast was predicted to bear the brunt of this incoming storm. So far, the only impact of Dudley, delays and disruption. This service to Dunoon was one of the few ferries able to operate this afternoon.
It's meant to get worse in the next hour, but as long as I get home, that's the main thing.
I think it's probably the worst I've faced. I'm just hoping the next one comes. And I've just missed one by seconds.
The boats sometimes go off, but not the Western Ferry, so we know it's bad when the Western goes off.
There was no evening rush hour for those travelling by rail. Instead, it was a race to catch the last train before almost all services stopped by 4 o'clock.
I got sent home from work and they just told me to go just now because I live in Dunfermline.
3:05 was the last train that we can get, so we thought we'll just go. So fingers crossed the weather's not terrible yet.
I was due to be here till 5, but I can't because the last train is 3:20. So it's causing a bit of a problem.
Very unhelpful to business, very unhelpful to people, unnecessary hassle, and I hope they're wrong. I hope there isn't a big storm, and that'll be safe for everybody, won't it?
ScotRail say it took the action on safety grounds due to the potential threats of high winds blowing trees onto the tracks and damaging equipment.
We're not coming back to tomorrow afternoon, so I'm hopeful. We nearly called the trip off, but I'm hopeful that we'll be okay.
Tomorrow we're heading south, so we're on from Edinburgh down to Peterborough at 12. So how to get to Edinburgh might be a challenge, but could be a taxi, could be a lift.
Network Rail say they have additional engineers on standby across the network, ready to react to any problems and to check all affected lines for any damage. It's anticipated in some areas this disruption could last until mid-morning tomorrow.
We'll be working through the night to get services back up and running for rush hour tomorrow as much as we can, but we would ask people before they leave the house in the morning, check what services are running, because we don't yet know the extent of the damage that we will face.
The Scottish Government's Resilience Committee is continuing to monitor the situation. Power companies have also increased their staff to deal with any issues overnight.
For example, in some of the island communities, the power companies have deployed additional personnel to be on hand. Should there be an interruption to power supply, they will be able to, when the situation is more calm, to be able to restore power supplies.
Tomorrow is expected to be a calmer day, but another storm named Eunice is expected to roll in on Friday, this time bringing with it snow. Sharon Frew, STV News.
Let's head to the part of the country that's bearing the brunt of Dudley. That's Kintyre, and Sean is there for us tonight. Sean, how's it been?
The Kintyre Peninsula. I'm just out over the loch in Isla with gusts up to about 60 or 70 miles per hour. Just having a wee look at the latest wind speeds. And we've had a gust in 70 just south of Lanark as well. Glasgow and Edinburgh gusts up to about 50 miles per hour. So this is a squeeze really starting to go lovely. The worst has passed us here. But the worst is still to come in central and eastern parts over the next couple of hours. And then, of course, all attention moves to Eunice on Friday. She has the possibility of bringing up some snow, so some gusty winds still to come, the possibility of damage from Dudley.
Sean, thank you. And if you couldn't hear him, you could certainly see how blowy it was.
Well, from a very windy Argyll in the west, we're heading to East Lothian now and to Vanessa Kennedy. So, Vanessa, how are things in North Berwick?
Well, here in the east, Storm Dudley has really been picking up pace, and winds are here due to peak at 70 miles an hour here, and you can really feel the impact of that weather warning. Now, across East Lothian today, public buildings like offices and libraries, they were closed early. That was to allow people to get home safely. Now, of course, being in a coastal area comes with increased risk. Today, the RNLI warns of potentially treacherous conditions and have warned anybody in these exposed coastal areas to be extra careful. Now, we're hearing we may not yet have felt the worst of the effects of Storm Dudley, with more winds set to come throughout the evening.
All right, Vanessa, thanks very much for that. A self-proclaimed eco-terrorist has been jailed for 8 years and 4 months for planting a homemade bomb in Edinburgh's Princes Street Gardens back in January 2018.
35-year-old Nikolaos Karvounakis claimed he was a member of the international terrorist mafia, but says he has since renounced these views. Our reporter Ivana Holland was in court today as he was sentenced.
Tonight, Nikolaos Karvounakis begins his 8-year jail term following his conviction for committing offences under the Terrorism Act. The former Greek serviceman left a homemade bomb filled with nails in a shelter in Princess Street Gardens in January 2018. The prosecution said the IED had the potential to cause significant injury. Karvanakis claimed he was a member of the International Terrorism Mafia, a Mexican-based eco-terrorist group. He was sentenced today at the High Court in Edinburgh.
Mr. Karvanakis' defence counsel argued that his client bitterly regrets his actions and will continue to bitterly regret his actions for the rest of his life. But Lord Braid noted that the accused had bought the components over a number of months and that he used internet videos to build a viable device. He noted afterwards and spoke to Mr. Karvanakis directly and said, "Afterwards, you appear to exult in the commission in your claim of responsibility."
DNA evidence from the device was linked to the 35-year-old who was arrested in June last year. Police Scotland say today's sentencing sends out a strong message.
Terrorism will not be tolerated in a civilised society, and this was an unusual case, very complex investigation, but it's also the fact that his actions of portraying what he had done may radicalise others, and that may not just be in Scotland, that could take place anywhere in the world, and again, someone acting on what he's done or said could have catastrophic impact.
His sentence was reduced from 10 years due to his guilty plea last month. Ivana Holland, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and 2 people have been charged with the murder of a grandfather in Springburn. Brian Maley was found in his flat last Tuesday. Police say he suffered a violent and sustained attack. A 45-year-old woman and a 33-year-old man are due to appear in court.
And an 18-year-old man has been arrested and charged in connection with the death of another man in Cumbernauld. 27-year-old James Ross died following a disturbance outside the Abram Hill shopping centre. A 15-year-old boy who was held in connection with the incident has since been released.
Textile waste accounts for almost a third of Scotland's carbon impact. That's one of the findings of a new report by Zero Waste Scotland.
But companies are trying to change their shopping habits. A sustainable clothing firm in Lanarkshire is encouraging customers to rent instead of buy. Susan Ripple reports.
This is some place where clothes have right of way over staff as they move through the warehouse, getting stitched and cleaned, ready for the next customer.
We've got over 3 million garments in our warehouse, and over the course of a year we can process up to 1 million. Like 5,000 per day during season, which equates to like 1,500, 3,000 orders per day. So it's always a challenge, but we look at it as a puzzle and we like solving the puzzle every day.
The team works with retailers who allow customers to rent instead of buy. And machines like these, which press and dry shirts in 30 seconds, help them keep up with demand. The place has changed a lot since Angela started here 14 years ago.
It was only like wee toty factory, and then they've gradually got bigger and bigger, and they moved to the new complex in here, and they've extended all the time. Because we're getting that much work in, we'll have to extend.
Some jobs are more unusual than others, like the sniff test. But it's technology which helps everyone keep track of what clothes are where.
When each garment comes in, it gets scanned in, so there's a track of every garment that is in and out. So we make sure that everything is processed within the time frame that is given to us. It's so well organized that even when I was a new staff member, it was not too difficult to understand. It was just straightforward because there's a process in place which helps us know everything.
This is one of the most crucial parts of the factory, and they call it the wave. The clothes travel for miles through the warehouse from when they arrive to get cleaned and repaired to coming up here where they're getting sorted to then get shipped out to the customers.
It's all about encouraging sustainability, particularly topical after Glasgow hosted the climate conference last year.
COP26 is quite an interesting topic because one of our frustrations was fashion wasn't talked enough about on the agenda. It was very much talking about utilities and transportation, but fashion is one of the industries that creates the most pollutants in the world. So being able to enjoy fashion, but enjoy fashion in a different way, which has a less of an impact on the environment, is the way to move forward.
They're hoping to see more demand for their service in years to come, and they're prepared. Just look how much space they've got for more clothes.
Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
Now here's Raman with the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst says Rangers are relishing their Europa League tie against Borussia Dortmund. The Scottish champions take on the Bundesliga side for a place in the last 16 of the competition. Meanwhile, Celtic are preparing to face Bodo Glimt in the Europa Conference League. We hear from Ange Postecoglou shortly, but first, the latest from the Ibrox camp. For the third season in a row, Rangers are preparing for a knockout tie in the Europa League. To reach the next stage, they must overcome the tournament favourites, Borussia Dortmund.
We're playing against one of the top sides in Europe. It's of course it's very nice for us to be still involved in Europe. So when you are involved in Europe after the winter break, you're gonna play against a very good opposition. So we are relishing the challenge to play against a top side.
Ryan Jack has recovered from an ankle knock, but the game comes too soon for Leon Balogun, who has a hamstring injury. Dortmund starman Erling Haaland has been ruled out of the first leg. Despite his absence, the Rangers players expect a stiff test.
European games, the opposition play a different way. But as the boss says, we've analysed that. We'll go out and try and do our best. Obviously, you want to try and win every game, although it will be difficult because of a top opposition.
Dortmund go into the match on the back of a 3-0 win over Union Berlin.
I think we had the good balance during this game, and it's what we need to bring for tomorrow and the next one. And I think it's like the coach said, we have to be offensively and defensively constant.
Storm Dudley gave Bodo Glimt a taste of the Glasgow weather this morning as the Norwegian champions trained at Parkhead. But with their season not starting until April, they hope not to be blown away by Celtic come tomorrow night. Heading into the match, Kjetil Knutsen's side have only played 2 friendly matches so far since December.
Celtic are in the middle of the season in really good shape. We are in the pre-season. That's the way it is. We have been in Spain for 3.5 weeks now, and I think and hope we are competitive tomorrow.
Ange Postecoglou welcomes back Josip Juranovic to the Celtic squad for tomorrow's Europa Conference playoff. Celtic enter the competition following their third place finish in their Europa League group.
We're in the knockout stages, and if we get past a very good opponent first up, we'll get another good opponent in the next round, and you just got to tackle each opponent as it comes. But every competition is there to be won by someone. So I don't think 16 or whatever teams left. I don't think there's only 5 of them that think can win it.
Mikey Johnson has been sidelined after picking up an ankle strain against Raith Rovers, with Yosuke Ideguchi not registered for the competition. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Now, 3 days after Aberdeen sacked Stephen Glass, there's been another Premiership casualty. James McPake has lost his job at Dundee. It brings an end to his near 3-year reign in charge of the Dark Blues. Here's Stephanie Daly.
Well, I understand that James McPake took training this morning before being relieved of his duties here at Dens Park this afternoon. Dundee, of course, sits second bottom of the Scottish Premiership with just 3 wins in their last 12 matches. But perhaps what's most surprising about the decision is the timing of it. Dundee just recorded back-to-back wins against Hearts in the league, and they just secured a place in the Scottish Cup quarter-finals at the expense of Peterhead on Monday night. But Dundee said in a statement that they acted to preserve McPake's legacy and their place in the league. They didn't take the decision lightly. Well, it brings to an end McPake's long association with the club. He arrived here at Dens in 2014 as a player before taking over as manager 5 years later. Attention turns to who will take over. I understand that Dundee won't hang about and are likely to make a quick appointment. They could have someone in charge in time for Sunday's trip to Celtic.
In other football news, Scotland women's defence of the Pinatar Cup is over after just one game. Pedro Martinez Los's side lost 3-1 to Wales. The Scots will face Slovakia or Belgium on Saturday. Fifth place is now the best they can finish in the 8-team tournament. The SFA's head of girls and women's football, Fiona McIntyre, says being part of the SPFL will help develop a professional women's league in Scotland. It comes as elite women's football will come under the responsibility of the league from next season. McIntyre says it's the most significant development she's seen in the women's game. And finally to the Winter Olympics, and Team GB's women's curling team are in danger of failing to qualify for the semi-finals after losing to China. Eve Muirhead's rink are now in fifth place after going down 8-4. They must defeat a Russian Olympic Committee in their final round-robin match and rely on results elsewhere. That is all the sport for me tonight, folks. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Time now for more weather from Sean.
A cold snap is on the way. TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
So over the next couple of hours, we're going to still see some very strong and gusty winds. That yellow shaded area showing us where we could get gusts of wind 60 miles per hour. The pink shaded area 70. Now it does look as if Dudley could have a right old kick in the next hour or so, and we could get gusts of wind possibly up to about 70. Parts of Stirling around Falkirk, Clickmannanshire, southern and western parts of Fife, and also around Edinburgh. So still some very, very gusty winds over the next couple of hours. Now even though the winds ease a little bit through tonight, still going to be very, very windy, particularly so in the west where those gales continue throughout most of the night. So those winds slowly easing down through the night, but still staying very gusty in passing showers. Now those showers will continue into tomorrow. The first half of the day there's going to be lots of showers coming in from the west. There will be a mixture of rain and sleet at lower levels, maybe even a wee bit of wet snow later on in the day and any heavier showers as that freezing level starts to drop, but settling snow over higher ground. And it will feel cold because it's still going to be blustery, temperatures 3 or 4 degrees, probably feeling closer to freezing. Now, once Dudley's out of the way tonight, it's going to be all eyes on Storm Eunice. Now, Eunice is going to be way to the south. That's what we expect at the moment. That means the strongest winds will be across England and Wales. However, this weather front, very problematic at the moment where it lies. However, if it does get as far north as us, the risk of heavy snow and the possibility of blizzards. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, a remarkable tale. A bus driver from Glasgow has had an emotional reunion with a passenger whose life he saved.
Billy Bell has been driving buses in Glasgow for more than a decade, but the first aid training he learnt as a teenager was crucial when a passenger had a cardiac arrest on board the number 57 last April. Polly Bartlett has the story.
Hi buddy, it's so good to see you.
Meeting the man who saved his life.
Here he is in the flesh, the hero himself.
John was travelling on the number 57 bus through Glasgow on his way to meet friends for a game of tennis when he suffered a cardiac arrest.
I'm a fairly active guy, I just retired. I packed my bag with all my tennis gear and my cycling gear, and I saw the bus coming, so I jogged to the bus, jumped on, I put my mask on, and next thing I knew, I was feeling dizzy. And that's the last thing I really remember.
That's when bus driver Billy Bell stepped in, performing life-saving CPR for 35 minutes.
Funnily enough, we just come down this road, got to the bus stop over there, and I was just about to leave the bus stop. Passenger came and said, I think one of your passengers is taking a wee funny turn. So we started doing the CPR, doing that for a while, till the ambulance came.
Fewer than 1 in 10 people survive a cardiac arrest outside of hospital, making it even more remarkable.
I can't put it into words. I really can't. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. I turned 63 yesterday, and I would have been 62 if it hadn't been for the intervention of Billy the bus driver and a couple of other folk.
After saving John's life, Billy even made sure to finish his run.
To me, it's a brilliant thing for somebody to have done, and I just think if people are aware and know that maybe they can do something as well. I'm an ordinary guy, you're an ordinary guy, but ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And
well said.
You have.
And they're now firm friends. But John's hoping for a far less eventful journey next time he's on the number 57 and Billy's at the wheel. Polly Bartlett, STV News.
Real life hero. Well, that's all from us. Don't forget, Rowan Up will have Scotland tonight at 10:40.
From all of us, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.